Hey yo, what's good? I'm gonna be telling you at the time I got chased by kidnappers. I was running for my life. It is an honor to be alive and have the opportunity to share my story. Back in my freshman year of college, I had this one friend who we would call Anthony for the purpose of this story. We became good friends after catching each other copying off each other in math class. We would be on the game a lot, having a great time. But over time, he started to get on less and less. And oftenly, when I went to the same class, I wouldn't see him. I asked him about his absences, and he would usually tell me how much time his job was taken up. He said he was just too tired to go to class. I was worried for him until one day I figured out the reasons for his disappearances. On that same day at midnight, in the middle of me going for my daily 45-minute walk, I saw Anthony at the park sitting alone. Cause I know he was going through a lot, I went to go talk to him to see if he was doing alright. Once I got closer to him, I saw that his head was facing down, wearing all black. While getting closer, I called out his name to give him a heads up, and he immediately looked up. He asked me why I was there. He then told me to run away and never come back to the area. I asked him why, and then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of black pole stars surrounded me. Right after that, a man wearing all black approaches me. He congratulated Anthony for catching a lick and forced me into his car. I looked back at Anthony with disbelief, and he turned his head away, pointing a gun at me as well. Man, I was starstruck. I couldn't believe I was getting held hostage. When we got into his car, the goon put me in the back seat and sat in the front seat. Anthony got in the driver's seat and shortly got moving. Also, the other cars began to follow behind. After a minute of feeling hatred and listening to this goon bragging about how much money he was gonna make, I calmed down, remembering a quote I learned from a wise man. Breathe air. After taking a deep breath and assessing the situation, I realized that if I went along with their plan, my chances of escape would be almost non-existent. Despite the risk, I concluded that it was my only chance of getting out. I stared at the front mirror, catching Anthony's attention, and said exactly this: "We're brothers, we're happy, and we're singing, and we're colored." Man, me and Anthony were both bumping our heads. I ended with, "Give me a high five." He turned around, and as we were about to give each other a high five, he accidentally turned slightly to the left and drove onto a ramp. Suddenly, we were in midair. Eventually, we landed upside down on the ground near the water. I woke up and I had the meanest headache, but I had just enough strength to crawl at the vehicle. When I walked to the front side of the car, I saw Anthony upside down, knocked out. I woke him up by shaking him and told him to let me help him get out. He then started telling me how sorry he was for everything he had done and I should leave him. The only reason I need him is that the other criminals are after me and I'm not gonna get far on foot. I slapped him and told him to suck it up and get his act together. I told him if he wants to redeem himself, then he gotta pull himself together. Anthony agreed and I was able to pull him out of the car. When we were on our way to the main road, the goons came up to us and asked what happened. Anthony told him that someone crashed into our vehicle, causing us to fall off the main road. He also told him that he contacted the boss and he said to let us use their car. I was surprised to find out how stupid the goons were when they all got out the car. Anthony got into the front and I got into the back seat. But as soon as we were about to leave, the goon who was in the car with us crawled out the vehicle and yelled out that Anthony was a traitor. Anthony immediately drove off and the goons started shooting at us. As we were driving, multiple black Polestar cars were chasing us. I assumed that the goon notified the rest of the goons and I was prepared to answer back. I told Anthony to hand me the Glock and he told me not to worry about a thing. He said he was chosen as the driver for a reason. He then sped up and started going crazy. He was maneuvering through traffic, taking sharp turns, cutting through alleyways, and he was even causing cars to crash into each other, blocking the road. We eventually escaped and parked in the middle of an alleyway. Not only was I winded, I just couldn't wrap my mind around what just happened. He asked me if I was alright and I said barely. I asked him why he was working with those guys and he told me his whole backstory on how he joined that corrupt organization. Anthony said that he was broke and needed money for college. He had been job hunting for a while, but no one would hire him due to his lack of skills and experience. With no money in his bank account and poor grades, he was desperate for cash. One night, while walking home, he came across a job poster offering training and pay for completing gigs. Despite feeling suspicious, he accepted the job due to his desperation. When he arrived at the spot, he was interviewed by a man next to a black Mercedes who asked him what he can do. Anthony replied that he wasn't good at anything and the man told him to get in the driver's seat. Anthony nervously got into the driver's seat and the man taught him how to drive. Soon, Anthony found himself driving like a natural and the more he drove, the more he enjoyed it. After driving back to the meeting spot, the man told Anthony that he had been hired and couldn't back out because he drove the car and learned how to drive because of him. A polyester car arrived and the man told Anthony to go to that car because his first mission had started. The goon gave gave him the driver's seat, told him where to go, and when they arrived, the goon told him to wait in the car. Soon after, the goon returned with a tied up girl and put her in the back seat. The goon got back into the front seat and Anthony started panicking, asking what was going on. The goon yelled at Anthony, telling him to get his act together, and drove to the hideout. Anthony had completed his first mission and was welcomed as one of the members, but he felt horrible about it. Anthony had become an accomplice to many kidnappings and hated himself for it. However, the money was helping him and his family, so he felt that he had no choice but to keep doing it. After hearing his story, I felt bad for the guy. It wouldn't have sat right with me if I didn't help, more because I didn't have anything better to do. I suggested that we should get back for the innocent people and explain to him that stealing from evil is justice because Speedy Gonzalez did it. Also, it would look bad if we let another man just boss us around like that and not do anything about it. He understood, and we quickly got started on planning.